Today's lesson is about long division with a two-digit divisor. And I have Andrew here to help me with the problems. Up till now, Andrew, we've done long division using just a single-digit divisor. But I think you're going to find that using a two-digit divisor isn't any harder than the other. You ready to get started?
Yeah.
All right. Let's try this problem right here. 1,341 divided by 25 equals. We see that we have the exact same parts to the problem as we have when we have a single-digit divisor. We have a dividend divided by a divisor, and the answer will be our quotient. We can also set up a long division problem like this. And we'll put our dividend in the house, we'll put our divisor outside trying to come in, and our quotient will end up on the top line right above the dividend. Ready to get started?
Yeah.
All right. Here's our problem set up like it was on the page we just looked at. But before we get started on the actual division, let's go through the steps that are required when you're doing long division. Do you remember the trick that we use to remember those steps?
No.
All right, let me remind you of it. It's does McDonald's sell cheeseburgers? And the first letter of every one of those words represents a step in the long division process. So let's look at it. Does, D, divide, McDonald's, M, multiply, sell, S, subtract, cheese, C, check, burgers, B, bring down. And if you just remember those steps, long division is easy. So let's get started.
Okay.
The first step is divide. And what we'd like to do is divide the entire two-digit divisor into the first two digits of our dividend, which are 1 and 3, or 13.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't do that. Why?
Because it's smaller.
13 is smaller than 25, so we're going to have to try and divide 25 into the first three digits of our divisor, 134, or 134. Now that may seem hard at first, but there's a way we can make it easier.
Okay.
What we can do is cover up the last digit of our divisor and the last digit of the three numbers in the dividend that we're dividing into. And now we end up with 2 divided into 13. Mm-hmm. About how many times do you think 2 goes into 13?
6.
6. Sounds good to me, so let's try that.
All right.
We're now moving down to our multiply step in long division. We're going to multiply 6 times 25. I like to multiply right over here on the side instead of doing it in my head because I'm less apt to make mistakes. So let's try that. 25 times 6. 5 times 6 is?
30.
Put down my 0, carry my 3. 2 times 6 is?
12.
Plus the 3 I carried?
15.
That makes 15. Uh-oh. 150? Bigger. Too big. Bigger than 134. Let's try a smaller number. Let's multiply 25 times 5. See if that works. 5 times 5 is?
25.
25. Put down my 5, carry my 2. 2 times 5 is?
10.
Plus the 2 I carried? 12. And I end up with 125. Well, that's definitely smaller than 134. So let's try that. We're going to put the 5 that I multiplied by directly above the 4 in my 134. And I'm going to multiply now 5 times 25. And I know that that equals 125 because I just done that. So let's write 125 here. The next step is?
Subtract.
We will subtract 125 from 134, and the answer to that is?
9.
9. Now we need to do a check. We need to make sure that the remainder we got here is smaller than the divisor. Does it work? Is it smaller?
Yeah.
So we know the 5 was a good choice. Our next step, bring down. We're going to bring down the next digit, which happens in this case to be a 1. Now we go all the way back to the top and start with divide again. This time we're going to divide 25 into 91. Okay. We can use the same trick we used before. We can cover up the last digit of the 25 and the last digit of the 91. And now we're dividing 2 into 9. About how many times does 2 go into 9, Andrew?
4.
Goes in about 4 times. But when we tried that up here, we ended up with a product that was too big, didn't we?
Yeah.
We had to drop down one number. So let's try dropping down to 3 this time and see if that might work. So we'll come over here, multiply 25 times 3. 3 times 5 is
15.
put down my 5, carry my 1. 2 times 3 is
6.
plus 1.
7.
75. 75 is smaller than 91.
Yes.
Let's give it a try. We'll write the 3 directly above the 1. Multiply 3 times 25, and we know that answer is 75. Subtract 91 minus 75 equals
16.
16. Now we have to do our check. Let's make sure that the answer we got here is smaller than the divisor. Is
Yes.
it? All right, so we know 3 was the right number. Let's look at the last step. Bring down. No more numbers to bring down. So we're basically finished with this problem. We have 53 as our quotient, but we have a remainder of 16. We can write that remainder 2 ways. We can write it as R16 up here right after our quotient. R stands for remainder. Or we can also write it as a fraction. If we write it as a fraction, the remainder, or in this case the 16, is the numerator or the number on the top of the fraction. And the divisor, in this case 25, is the denominator or the number on the bottom of the fraction. So we would write that as 16 over 25, and we would read that as 16/25. The kind of problem you're doing will help you know whether to write it with an R or as a fraction. So that's all there is to long division with 2 divisors, or with 2-digit divisors. You just have to remember the steps, which are divide, multiply, subtract, check, bring down. And it's easy. So now you do some problems. Go to it and get ahead in math.